Welcome to the Gravel Lot, the place where bikes are for everyone.
The Gravel Lot podcast is presented by Be Free Ride Bikes Apparel, providing a fully customized cycling apparel experience to provide you and your team the attention to detail and personal touch that you deserve.
And also brought to you by Grimpour Brothers Coffee, offering handmade coffee roasted weekly in small batches to give you the finest quality coffee to start your day. Choose their subscription service and earn your free bag of coffee today.
Also by BioWheels Fit Studio and Workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio, offering you a full host of bike fitting services intended to provide the cycling enthusiast with the most efficient, comfortable, and sustainable bike fit they have ever had.
And by the Ritual All Natural Skincare, providing small batch, handmade chamois cream, custom blended for your team or shop right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Contact us today to learn more.
And by Hand Up Gloves. Great gear, better times. Providing a wide range of apparel for bikes, snow sports, and golf in multiple designs and fits to let your personality shine.
Our goal with the Gravel Lot is to inspire cyclists of all stripes to ride bikes, share their story, and have fun. We love all bikes and anyone who wants to ride them. So no matter where you sit on the spectrum of bikes, we'll always have a place for you in the Gravel Lot.
And now, the hosts of TGL, John Woolry and Doug McClintock.
Hello and welcome back once again to the Gravel Lot, the official podcast of all things cycling, stories, bike racing, not bike racing, or just riding your bike. It doesn't really matter.
Sure.
I'm John. That's Doug. We are so happy that you guys found us. As I said, here at TGL, we're all about telling stories, whether it's us telling stories or having somebody really interesting to come on and tell you guys a story about their life. But above all else, we want you guys to know that no matter what ride you are on, whether it's this week, today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, you will always have a place here in the Gravel Lot with Doug and myself. We love you guys, and we are so happy that you listen to us each and every week. So if you are one of those longtime Pebbles, welcome back. If you're a new listener, welcome, and cool, that's awesome. You found us. How did you find us? You should tell us. You should reach out to us on forms of social media or our website and talk to us. If you like what you hear today, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Google Android, YouTube,
Whatever.
Twitter, wherever you're at, subscribe, hit the notifications. So anytime that either we go live or you have a new podcast from us on Thursdays, you'll know and you'll be able to go listen to it because that's cool. We like sharing this with our bike friends.
So make sure to give us all the comments down below, show notes, all the places you can. John's monitoring the live feed. We'll get up whatever we got for today's guest as we roll into that. And in addition to that, make sure you go to our website and check out our Etsy store. We've got some gear, including this fine Gravel Out shirt that I'm currently wearing right now, and a ton of other awesome stuff, a bunch of other shows that are our friends, and we want to make sure you go check them out. Girls Moving Mountains, Bike Shop Show, some other stuff potentially in the works here we're doing, and go join us on Patreon, become a supporter, and help us bring this show to you. Also, make sure to go support all the people we mentioned in the beginning of the show because they're amazing and they do amazing things for this show and they deserve your support. All the links are in the show notes for them as well if you get lost and don't know how to operate the first part of the show where you're supposed to type stuff. It's okay. We give you links.
All of us.
Right. I mean, I just have autocomplete on everything. It just makes my life simpler. So also you can reach us on our voicemail 513-400-5577. One of my standouts this week is that apparently, John, I don't know if you're aware of this, we were supposed to be babysitting Saturday for Kenny.
The babysitter didn't show up.
And we didn't show up. So
I'm sorry.
I think, but I believe that was not our name. It was definitely not my name nor your name. So somebody got a wrong number and accidentally, that babysitter is probably real fired currently.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like a thing you get a second crack at.
No, for sure. So, all of that's out of the way. We didn't show up for babysitting. How was the rest of your week, John?
It's good. And we were talking about this a little bit before recording, that I don't have bike stories this week for me specifically, but it was so it warmed my heart so much this weekend watching regular Twitter. I'm not going to say bike Twitter because bike Twitter is very rarely a place that you actually want to spend much time.
That's true.
But regular Twitter, just watching people we've had on the show, friends of the show, industry friends, the Hermans going down to Knoxville for nationals, and just seeing everybody be so happy to be back together. Everybody posting pictures, posting excitement, sharing their excitement, feeling like I was kind of absorbing some of that from, we're 5.5 hours away from Knoxville, but being able to see some of that through social media were really warmed my heart for how we haven't had that in such a long time. It just made me acutely aware of how important all of that stuff is and how much I really thrive off of watching other people be happy. So that's like my main takeaway this week. What about you?
You know what? I really felt that love as well. And I think if I'm going to talk about a bike thing, right, there's a million things going on in life, like work's crazy, blah, 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 right? But I think if to ram that home further, yes, it's amazing seeing your friends do amazing things and to be genuinely excited and be like, haha, oh yeah, that person is awesome. And it's good to see them succeeding and working hard towards goals and just outliving their lives again. I think I'm seeing that throughout not only bike people, but all the people I'm surrounded with. So I want to leave everyone from my perspective with this. If you are not vaccinated, go get vaccinated. There are still variants coming. There's still challenges. Go get vaccinated so we can keep doing these things and that more people don't have to get hurt and die from COVID. We're not through the woods yet. And I want to keep seeing my friends and doing positive stuff. So go take care of yourselves and take care of your community, whether it's bike or otherwise, and take care of yourself and make sure everybody you love is protected.
Yeah, I won't add anything to that. It's a nice alleviation of stress. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you're like, sweet. I'm not worried about it anymore. Everything's good. I've got all my stuff under control.
Yeah.
So I think without any further ado,
let's go.
Let's do this. Let's get, yeah, it's like dropping the the starting gun. So we are joined this week by one of our cyclocross friends who just happens to be good at other forms of two-wheeled bike stuff. He's won national championships, both on and off-road. And most recently, still currently, is the men's elite national cyclocross champion from Lakewood, Washington. And he
got it for 2 years in a row, only winning one race. That's rad.
Pretty good. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. It's a good deal. Just fresh off of nationals down in Knoxville, Tennessee for road national champions. We're excited to have him with us for the first time. Gage Hecht, welcome to the Gravel Lot.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. It's good to be back talking to you guys again.
Yeah, we're not just in a motel or a hotel lobby having breakfast being like, so what's going on, man? We're actually get a chance to sit down. It's been a long time in the making, but we are super stoked we get a chance to join you. You are back home for a couple days as you're bouncing around the states, and we always like to start out with like, okay, what is the origin story of bikes? And you're kind of back in the space where they probably were part of your origin story. Was bikes part of the family life growing up there at home? Was that something that you got exposed to early on?
Yeah. And being from Parker, that's probably not the usual thing, but my dad growing up, he was really into BMX bikes. He and his buddy actually would dig up dirt in there. They had like an empty lot next to their house and would like just make jumps and stuff in that little lot that they had there. And he kept pursuing cycling throughout his like teens and 20s. And then kind of marrying my mom and then having me, he kind of took a step back, and at that point he had kind of gotten into road cycling was the main deal. But he pushed, like, I wouldn't say he pushed me, but like he gave me the opportunity to be on a bike pretty much from the time I could walk. And I was always really big into just being on the bike constantly. I remember a lot of times my parents would have to come out and yell at me for riding through the neighbors' yards, doing that sort of thing. And I don't remember a lot of these personally, but I know my dad has told me that we'd go on like 5 to 10 mile rides all the way back when I was like 6 or 7 years old.
That's wild. That's like a long distance for a 6 or 7 year old.
Yeah. So, okay. So you mentioned in there that he pursued cycling through his teens and his 20s. Is that like staying in it as a hobby, or did he try and progress competitively?
I think he was just trying to find what he really enjoyed most. Like he really liked the BMX when he was younger, and told me stories about like breaking head tubes off of bikes, jumping off picnic tables and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So that kind of thing was his deal when he was younger. And his parents, his dad was a manager at a country club, my grandpa. And like they were really into the swim team, and that was kind of what the family thing was, is the kids are going to swim. And so that was kind of his main sport that the parents kind of gave to him. But he still made it work to get in a few BMX races here and there. And then he got into triathlons for a period in there, and I'm not going to get the story completely right, so I'm not going to cover every little detail, but at some point in there, he got into road cycling and really fell in love with that. And that's really his pride and joy, is being on the road bike on nice, smooth roads. And he's gotten into more gravel nowadays, but that was always the big thing growing up, is like bikes are meant to be on the road.
I mean, all the cool kids are getting into gravel right now, so it's only natural. So you're doing 5-10 mile rides when you're 5, 6, 7 years old. Like, what does the progression look like for you? Because I mean, there's going to come a point where Adam Rakobinski comes into the conversation and like actually wearing jerseys and things like that. But I think it's important to like walk through each individual step in terms of like when bike rides go a little bit more serious, and then your first race and things like that. So like, how does this progress for you?
Yeah. So, up until when I was 9, or I guess it was 8 years old when my first race was, I was just pretty much just riding around the cul-de-sac doing what Brandon and I do in his backyard, and maybe getting my mom to find me every once in a
Some
while.
things don't change, Gage.
Oh no. Yeah. That stayed the same. So, that happened, or that was all the way up till when I was 8. And then we had a family friend of ours that, my dad had actually gotten into cycling. It's Susanna Gordon, really strong women's cyclist. She let him know that they had 8, 9 categories at that point in cycling. And back when he was racing, he said that I think 15, 16s or 13, 14s was the earliest you could start. So he's like, and we had a race coming to Parker, which is convenient. So we went down and did the race there, and it was actually
BMX or road.
It was a crit, or it was like an omnium. So
wow,
8, 9-year-olds doing an omnium?
I know, like, that's just.
We only did the crit in the omnium.
Okay.
There was an omnium here, and we did the crit piece.
All right. So Pebbles, you didn't get the green room area. We were talking about people going way too wide in corners, like 10 wide into dangerous crit corners. How many little kids? Because I've seen little kids play hockey, and it is like they swarm the hockey puck. How many little kids were going into that like first corner? How wide was that train?
I'm sure it was wide. I don't have a lot of memory like the start of that thing, but yeah.
I can't imagine just like one amorphous blob moving down the crit.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, like hockey, or I mean, I remember playing like little kid soccer when I was real small, and it's just it's a swarm. It's just a ball that like follows the ball around. So you say you don't remember a lot from that race. Do you have any kind of takeaways from like looking back on it? Like, do you remember segments of it, or does anything stand out about that day of your first race?
I remember that race in particular. I think because it was a peewee race or some like special thing, we only did, I think it was 1 lap around this crit course. And I'd like driven the street that the lap was on quite a bit. And I remember I just remember being there for certain pieces of it, and just like, young junior racing, just riders everywhere. You have no clue where you are. You're at the front, the back, so I had no clue what was going on, and I ended up getting second in it somehow. So that ended up pretty well. And that was actually, like, looking back, I had no idea obviously, because I barely followed cycling at the time, but that was Taylor Finney's last threes race, I believe, that he ever did.
Wow.
And so he has a time trial record, like, kind of in my neighborhood on the course.
That's cool. That's very cool. You're gonna have to shut those streets down when you.
I threw a race, and I was the only person that showed up. Weirdest thing.
That's great. So you get into this at a young age just because of happenstance, right? You got a family friend, and they know about what's going on. Your dad already likes cycling, and you're how old now?
23.
23. So you're 20. So like that's bizarre. Because this is the time, like cycling was a hot thing. Like, I was in high school getting out of going to college, and that cycling was hot at that point in time in a different kind of way than it is now. And once you're like, oh wow, well, like Gage could be Greg LeMond, or like go do these things. These people were people that were making a living at this. Did you like then from that first kind of experience just like decide Gage was like, no, this seems like fun. I finished second. I'm gonna go get this.
I don't know if that race, like in particular, I really thought that. I know that was like when I was 8 years old, and I didn't really race at all the rest of that year. But we came back and did it again when I was 9, and we'd found it was a club more so than anything called IC3, International Christian Cycling Club. And there were a few, basically just parents that were on the club and raced a few times that had kids all about the same age. And that's when I really started racing. Is around when I was 9. We did probably like 5 to 10 races that summer on the road bike. And I don't know if I really like there was a moment that like it really switched of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a pro cyclist someday. It was like, yeah, I'm enjoying this, and like kind of as the years went by, it just kind of seemed like that was just the path that I was on. It was like there was never like choosing to do this. It was just like, yeah, that's who I am. This has always been kind of part of my life and cycling. And
there's definitely some purity to just being a kid and enjoying the moment of like, this is a fun experience. I like doing this. It's fun riding with my friends and racing hard. And it's when like so many kids that are really talented are, whether they are doing it to themselves or they're having external pressures put on them, they get to that point too soon and it becomes not fun. So it's cool for somebody that's had as much success as you to kind of talk about it in terms of just like, I didn't think about it that way. I was just having fun and enjoying what I was doing, which invariably means that you're going to go do it more. You're going to go on more group rides. You're going to put more into it because like, if something's fun, I want to keep doing it. Yeah,
totally. And I've had, growing up, I've had friends that maybe like, they've complimented me on being like, you train so hard for this and it's amazing to see what you're doing and you're out riding every day. I kind of wish I had that commitment to doing something like that. But it was always weird to hear those compliments to me, because it was like, oh, I'm like, maybe it's technically training, but I'm just going out and riding my bike around the neighborhood a lot. And I just like doing that.
Did you see that skid I put in your yard? Yeah, that's what I was doing all day. I'm going to do it some more tomorrow.
Training.
Sorry about your grass, Mr. Wilson.
Oh yeah. There was a good, I think it was during the summer, I blazed a trail through the park that was down the street from us. All the way down to dirt. Like,
oh no. Well, like, was it just your own cuddy trail that you built because you were just ripping it that hard?
Yeah, I set up a course around the neighborhood and I liked ripping it every day, and I'd come home from school and just ride it a ton. And it went from live grass to dead grass to just being a straight trail through the park that didn't go anywhere really. Just
did you ever get shut down?
I think I remember hearing some talks about the HOA not being stoked about it, and the neighbors kind of being kind of annoyed.
This grass is dying in the weirdest way.
Yeah.
You see this blur of a small child.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, but I think that experience, like the fact that your love of that is so pure, and that there isn't a point that you can be like, nah, right here, this is when I knew this was going to be a thing. I think that is a lot of people's love affair with cycling. And it isn't, even when they get delayed or there's a gap in that space, when they find that re-engagement with it, they're like, oh yeah, this is why this made me feel this way. And it's that love, I think, that everybody's chasing, right? It's that like feeling of exhilaration and being engaged by it that people are always looking for. And we always go back to those seminal moments, but it's nice to see that is part of your arc, and that this is just a continuation of the journey. And even if there's a pause in it or a change in it, like this will always be part of your journey because you've gotten in that space. So you start racing, you start getting out there, and you're working with, like you've got these kids that you're racing with, IC3. When did you realize, not necessarily that this is like a thing that you wanted to pursue, but when did you realize that it was serious? Like, when did you know that someone was like, but this is serious, Gage. Like, was there a moment that you remember from that?
Again, I don't know if there was really a switch in that. I think we went out to my first ever national championships was in Kansas City. That year that it was so muddy, it was basically like clay on the course, and we had no clue where I was on a national stage. Like I've been doing well in local races, but when you're juniors, there's not like a ranking system or anything that you can keep track of who's good in Oregon and California and East Coast and all that. So it's like it's just a bunch of kids showing up to the start line of this race and hoping that you do okay. And it was close enough for us to drive, so it made sense for us to go. And we did that. We showed up there, and I showed up with this. It was a skin suit, or maybe it was. It might have been a jersey at that time. I can't remember. Either way, it was very baggy on the start line. I remember looking around and seeing kids on nice carbon bikes and tight skin suits that fit well, and I was just on my little red line Conquest. Showing up there, and it was like it wasn't confidence inspiring being on that start line, but after the race is over, there was a lot of confusion with lapped riders and all that, being junior racing, and they'd started a bunch of different age groups together.
Oh
made
yeah,
it even more difficult to figure out where you were. But after it was all over, we figured out I came out second, which was a pretty good result. Ian McPherson won that year. In the 10-12s. So
I love that you still remember that specifically. Like I was second to this person. I didn't forget.
Yeah. Well, that was one of those races. There is a lot of parent controversy going on with. Like,
let's talk about it.
Oh, parent controversy. We're here for parent controversy.
Yeah,
because this is like drama that isn't current, so we can talk about it in a different way.
And little kids aren't the ones that ruin little kid bike racing.
Right.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. Is like. I had no clue what was going on. I just knew like there's a bunch of upset parents all of a sudden. Like all the rest of us are all like picking mud out of our shoes. So.
You're 10. I know my 10-year-old nephew. Like he just knows like, did I do okay or did I do like better than okay?
Yeah, I mean, me at 10, I would have probably been picking it off and like throwing it at other people and laughing hysterically and not cared about anything else.
Yeah, there's a lot of good moments of. Us sitting in parking lots, putting the bikes upside down and spinning the tire as quick as we can and putting like dirt or something on the tire, watching it fly across parking lots.
Yes.
But yeah, so
to be fair, I would still do that. I still think that that's funny.
Oh, it's good fun. It's a lot of fun.
You can launch into other teams this season. I'm coming over and we're going to get them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We had a lot of fun with that. The goofy little juniors we were. But yeah. There is some issue with like how they did the laps. I think they gave us one to go when it should have been our finish, and I got passed by like 3 or 4 riders in that lap, and they actually scored us on that one to go lap, and so there was like a bunch of confusion with who was where, and I don't remember who else was up there, but I just remember Ian was the first one through on that lap. So
there you go.
Yeah.
But having like that kind of sort of success at that point in time, like. You go to a nationals and you've never been to a nationals, like, and you're like, oh, these people are, there's a whole bunch of other people here doing this thing. And kind of that you line up with these kids and they got carbon bikes and all this sort of stuff. Like, how do you, when you come back from that experience, how does that change how you can approach things, or does it?
I think it does a little bit. It gives you more of an understanding that like the pond is a lot bigger. Like the cycling pond is a lot bigger than you thought it would. Because here in Colorado, I grew up with probably the same pool of maybe 5 to 10 juniors that we all race each other every week, and you don't really think that there's stuff outside of that bubble. And then you go to nationals and you realize there's these bubbles of all over the country of these juniors. Like, man, this is a lot different. I guess I'm not like top of the the realm here. So, yeah.
So it as a little kid, was that one of the first experiences, because we've talked a couple times about it now, about how it didn't seem like it was this like very serious, you were taking it seriously, but it wasn't something that felt like work for you. seeing that there were all of these other talents across the country, did it make it seem like, wow, this is more stressful than I thought it was? Or was it more like, wait, this is way cooler because there's all these other people all over the country that are doing this? It's not like you said, it's not just the 5 or 6 people that I race with. There's 120 across the country that are super into this thing just like me. So did it make you feel like you were part of something bigger, or did it make it seem like that was your first exposure to like serious? This is like, we keep like going back to this, like, this is serious. This is bike racing is serious.
What we're getting down to is basically Gage is the most seriously unserious person, and I love it.
Yeah, and I don't think that was like a realization there of like I need to be more serious. It was like, this is cool. I want to be a part of this. Like, everybody's racing bikes here, and they're all traveling to this race, and like we should do more traveling to races because I like going places and seeing new things. And I remember that year we stayed at the Great Wolf Lodge, which is
nice.
Oh, it was great. There's a bunch of juniors on the water slides and doing all that stuff. And
yes,
so like,
because you're kids. Because like you got done with a really hard 40-minute race or whatever, and you're like, we still have energy. We're eating so much sugar today. And you start running around the place. Like, yeah, I know what that is. Like being on a school trip.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. And like, I don't think there was ever, maybe it's just because I ended up doing so well in those races. There wasn't like the pressure of like, you need to do better to continue to go to these races. It was just like, oh, you're doing pretty good. You're just like, there's no reason not to go to these races at this point.
Yeah. And I assume you're traveling with your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is like, it's this whole family bonding vacation, but also Gage is going to go play bikes for a minute, and then he's going to get muddy, and then he's going to go back to the Great Wolf Lodge and wash off
and play the
chlorine.
Flute, the magic flute like game that they have where you got to like use the wand and shit at Great Wolf Lodge, right?
Oh yeah. I don't remember all the things we did, but I remember the water park being like the big thing that stood out to us.
Yeah. Well, when you come back to Cincinnati,
you want us to get you a room there?
We've got a Great Wolf Lodge. We'll get you one. It's right near King's too.
Actually, this is not a bad idea.
I like this.
The host hotel for Cincy CX should be Great Wolf Lodge, and if it is not, I'm making it. So.
It'll be our unofficial hotel. Yes.
It'll be where the cool kids stay for sure.
Dude, I'm not kidding. We can do this, and I will go negotiate a room rate for anyone who has been on the gravel lot. If the CX appearing people who have been on the gravel lot would all like to stay at the Great Wolf Lodge, I will do my best to get a gravel lot group rate and book a series of rooms.
See, this is good information, people, because you guys might not realize it, but Doug is on this path right now, booking room rates for his family to come to his wedding. So this muscle is warmed up for him. So like, cash in on this, because the Great Wolf Lodge is pretty rad. And I mean, I would go stay the weekend there, and I live like 15 miles south. It's worth it. It's worth it. Come do it. Oh, yeah. That'd be awesome. I like this idea.
All right. So yes. Great Wolf Lodge aside, Wolf Lodge aside, and my excitement for this as the future plan this fall, you're starting to get out there. You're starting to race. You're starting to do this stuff. At what point did you like make the move to a team that had support? You're doing this with your family. You guys are figuring this out on your own. You're having success. You're seeing the space. Where did support come in that space? And you start to like get that other piece of the apparatus around you.
Yeah. So like, as I developed, I think IC3 tried to pitch in as best they could. We had a local bike shop, Bike Source, that sponsored us at the time, and they helped us get some bikes and equipment so that we could do that. But like, other than that, it was just vacation money that would get us to bike races.
Sure.
Well, and you said very clearly when you first started talking about them that it was more of a club. It was just kind of a group of folks that shared a similar kind of mindset. So not that it wasn't a disservice, but yeah, that it just wasn't set up for that sort of thing. But for them to be able to do anything, to provide any sort of assistance to you, it's pretty kick-ass.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. And they took me all the way to my second year in Augusta, which was second year of 13-14s, where I had really good luck and really good rides in all three of the races, the crit, the TT, and the road race. I ended up winning. So that was in front of Team Specialized. And we actually, like the day of the road race, the director, Larry Nolan for Specialized, came up to me and was like, okay, we need to talk and see what Gage is doing next year in the 15-16s.
Let's have a conversation. You seem to have done pretty well this weekend. We should probably talk.
We need to cash in on this before this third race.
So how does that talk go, and what does that like lead to?
It was basically a talk of like, would Gage be interested in traveling a lot more and going to these races and being with a team that's going to make the jump? And I think maybe for if anybody's involved in road cycling, you understand how important a team is. But I think for people that aren't into cycling so much, it's crazy how crucial it is to have a team around you when you're a road cyclist. Even at junior level, it's like it just gives you so many more doors to get into races and perform well at those races. So that was kind of the deal there, and they were a huge help. I remember flying out to San Jose a lot, where the team was based out of, and racing Sea Otter and a bunch of other races out there. And that was actually where I first rode with Chris Blevins, was on that team, and we had some really good rides together on that one, which is sweet. And,
he's no slouch, you know.
Oh no, dude.
You know, Olympian Chris.
No big deal. Yeah.
Right?
He's
He's
name
name
drop.
Olympics, right? Am I correct on that? Yeah.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah. He's just, I won 3 national championships and rode with a Olympian. Like, no big deal. Just whatever.
Yeah. The juniors were my prime years.
It's all gone downhill since then.
I mean, hey, that's how I feel about my 20s, son. It's fine. I'm coming back to my 40s though.
No, yeah. So Team Specialized is awesome. They gave me that like opportunity to really start to not like get serious, as you guys are maybe saying. Like maybe there's like that dynamic of like, okay, now since I'm traveling, I better like actually focus on hitting days of training and not taking days off whenever I want. But like, it was still fun. Like I get to go see my buddies on Team Specialized out in California.
Oh
yeah.
It was like kind of that like merging of those two pieces, I guess.
Yeah. And I think it's an important transition piece, because it's already showing how you're dealing with the additional perception of kind of results of like, okay, like we're flying you around the country and we're giving you stuff like that. You got to give back. And it's cool that your approach to that is like, okay, I can do those things and I can be present for those things, but I'm not going to let it enter my psyche. And I guess like to that point, since we've hit it a couple times, do you think that is just innate in you of being able to kind of compartmentalize that and put the stressors of the outside world, whether they're like self-inflicted, like I get really bad pre-race anxiety, and I know a lot of other folks do. And I mean, I don't like, I'm racing for socks. Like there's no mortgage payment on the line for me.
We're lucky if there's socks.
Right. But like having a company that's investing in you like that, and having those perceived pressures, like you being able to just like be able to be chill with it and be cool with it, is that something that's innate for you, or is there something that somebody taught you along the way that like has helped you manage kind of the expectation game of it? Because it's, I mean, cycling, we talked about it last week with Larissa, that it's very much like, what have you done for me lately? And what did what you're only as good as your last race. So like having that constantly be in your world for the last 11, 12 years since you've been getting like legitimate sponsors, like how have you managed that? Did somebody help you out with that? Like talk us through your process of approaching that. Cause I kind of want to learn how to do it.
No, so I've definitely gotten worse over the years. And maybe it's just because it's gotten harder. Like when you're a junior and basically up till you're under 23, you don't really, you kind of have to worry about getting on teams, but it's not such a big deal. Like each individual result doesn't make or break your career until you get to that U23 stage where it's like, okay, this race could like be my stepping stone to the next level. And maybe I didn't grasp that when I was a junior. But I feel like that's become a bigger thing for me now, especially in racing cross, where it's just so like these tiny little mistakes make or break your race. And I've noticed that I had a really good first year as a junior in cross, but then like when I started actually like having the expectation of I won it wasn't a World Cup, but like the Coxida like junior thing. I won that, and I kind of all of a sudden had this expectation of me of now you should probably be winning other races if you're gonna like if you did that. And I think like that pressure started mounting on me. And it's something that I struggle with a lot getting into the U23 is it's just like this frustration of like you make one mistake and then you get frustrated by that and that builds, and you know how that is. But I think that's something that I've talked about with athletes in action over the last years, and Todd Hendrickson is really finding your identity apart from cycling, because cycling is just such a weak platform to find identity, and you can be good one week and then be out with broken bones and head injuries and that sort of thing for weeks after that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's just like that's the nice thing about Christianity is like while yes cycling is something I really enjoy and I want to keep doing it and I want to like push forward with that, and getting good results means I get to keep going forward with that and doing stuff I enjoy. At the end of the day, I'm saved by grace, and I can identify with that, and I can take joy in knowing that like if the cycling thing doesn't work out, there's something more in store for me on the other side of this. And I think it also helps that I've built a good career in aviation and going to school that way. But again, that was brought into question when I had a head injury a couple years ago. It's 2 years ago now. And so I've been missing my medical for that. And so that brought in the aviation part to question of like, now, wait, so I was kind of like backing up on this aviation thing, and now that's almost gone. It's like, okay, it's now time to come back to Christ a little bit and rely on the fact that like he's got this and we'll find a way, kind of thing.
I think people's faith as a rudder for them is very important in these spaces, because it has certainly given you, and does give a lot of people, the ability to see outside the lane they're running down right now, right? Like you approach this thing because it was fun and it was a thing you were good at, and like, wow, all these things started to follow. But to have the perspective to be able to be like, okay, right now this is where I'm at, but I have to think about myself holistically, and outside of that is important. And I think that perspective isn't something that everyone approaches it. I mean, I know I struggle with this myself, right? Like I have expectations of myself that I am going to do X, Y, and Z, and I will go deliver on them because they bring value to me. But I appreciate that your perspective through your faith is to look a little bit larger in the realm of what you're on earth to do, whatever that is. And I think anybody who approaches the world in a way where they're looking at themselves and saying, all right, I may be good at this right now, or maybe the best at this exact moment. That isn't my entire worth. That isn't my entire value. I have much more to give. And that perspective is very, very helpful from that. When you look at that, that life lessons, those things that you've been brought up to understand, and your faith in that space, but also the things that you've learned through the actual application of going through races and having wins and defeats and trying to learn new perspectives. What do you think the most important thing that you learned from like the development world of being in cycling has translated into way that you live your life daily?
I think USA Cycling was actually a big part of this, and my first ever time racing in Europe. I guess we'd done a few Kermesse trips prior to this, and we'd done pretty well in those. But my first ever stage race as a junior in Europe, we did the Peace Race in the Czech Republic, and I was dropped going over the final climb. And that was like so unheard of for me, is like to get into this race that I'm that on the back foot of. Is like, okay, maybe I need to like take a step back and kind of look at this and go, how can I be a benefit for the rest of this race? Because I'm over here, I might as well do something. So I think like taking those opportunities where you're in over your head a lot and to look at it and be like, okay, I gotta make sense of this and figure out how I can still be good and not just walk back to my room every night and be bummed that I didn't win. I gotta take something out of this race. So
that's so good. Like, okay. What is the silver lining in this situation?
yeah, exactly. It's like I can either go back to my room all mad because I got dropped, or I can go back to my room tomorrow night and be kind of disappointed that I got dropped still, but like at least I rode the front for my teammate, or I got in bottles or something like that. Like at least I had something to put my name on at the end of the day.
Well, right. And I think that goes to, like, I'm thinking back to when you were talking about your first nationals, about how going there was this eye-opening experience, that there is this whole world beyond you. And hearing you talk about faith, I'm thinking about it in terms of, like, define it however you will. You defined it for us. But I think understanding where you fit into, like, this is my small micro world, but also where you fit into that macro world gives you a lot. I don't want to call it a leg up, but it gives you kind of an inside track on being able to have perspective in those situations where, you know, you go win Koksida and then your next race, it would be insane to think that you would show up to whatever that next race was without expectations somewhere between your two ears. Like it's to me, that is humanly impossible to think that you could go perform at that highest level, win, and not take some of that from an ego perspective to the next one. But also getting humbled in those situations, but also knowing kind of where you fit into the landscape of everything else around you. Like we've talked about it with Brennan. I will talk about it with you. Like that is, you're 23 now, but that is, you're looking at like twice your age in terms of that perspective, because not many folks that are in their 20s, in their 30s, probably in their 40s, have that ability to say, okay, I'm going to take the L today, but I'm going to take that L and I'm going to try and figure out what I can learn from this and still how I can make this situation better, whether it's in the office, in the bike race, at the coffee shop, whatever it is. Like so many people get caught up and get so hemmed up by, I screwed that up, and it ruins their day, their week, their month, because they just get stuck on that piece of failure, not realizing you make 10,000 decisions in a day, but we always focus on the one that we screwed up on, not the 9,999 that we did right. So for you, I guess, like, let's talk about that a little bit. Like, is that faith something that's been a part of your life since as long as you can remember, and it's just kind of been this slow acquisition of more depth as it's gone along? Or was there some point along the way that you started getting more and more invested in kind of understanding what was going on?
Yeah. So since I was born, I've been in a Christian family. My parents are both followers. And actually about the time when I was 3 or 4, my mom started working at the church we were going to in the children's ministry, which put us there for a lot of the day. Like
right.
I had a lot of times sprinting up and down the hallways of that church.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe occasionally riding your bike inappropriately up and down the hallways.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I may or may not have done that a few times. Right. But yeah, so I was kind of surrounded by a lot of Christian people in my life, and most of my friends at school were Christians. And not that was a bad thing, but it did provide me with a lot of diversity in that. But cycling really started creating this chasm of like, oh, there are non-Christian people in this world. And this is something I was talking to Brandon about. Like, it's given me a better worldview being in cycling. Of like, not everybody lives in Parker, Colorado, and has grown up in a church. So doing that kind of changed my worldview, but it also formed this identity that I started to use of like, I'm the Christian kid. I'm the kid that, doesn't say swear words on the team. I'm just a nice guy, and that's like what everybody thinks of me. And I started like getting so wrapped up in this identity piece of I've got to be the good kid, and not so much being like I'm. And I separated it from this being like a follower of God. Actually, like it was two separate pieces of like I've got to focus on this piece of being a Christian on my own, of being like the good person that does not a lot wrong, and this piece of like following Christ and reading, like being in the Bible every day and praying and all that got separated. And I kind of backed off of this piece a little bit, and I don't think it was fully gone, but there was definitely a period in my life up until a couple of years ago where I kind of lost touch with that. And then, I was talking about that crash I had earlier where I had the concussion, and that put a lot of things into perspective. It was more than a concussion. I had some internal bleeding on my brain, and, like there was no real risk of me dying in hindsight, but like when people come in and say that, it hits pretty hard. Like, wow, this is not just a head injury. This is pretty serious. Like this could have some real long-term effects. So I spent a lot of time in that hospital room, just kind of like taking the opportunity to like relinquish control of like, okay, I've controlled this piece of like, I'm a Christian, I'm a cyclist, and I'm all these other identities. And that was the moment where I just like let that all go. Like, okay, I can't be all those anymore. It's like coming back to Christ and following him again, and coming back to prayer and being in the Bible and building that relationship again.
In looking back on that, does that time period, does it feel like conflict? Because the way that you describe it, it felt as though you were describing somebody that was conflicted, but you talked about it very casually, that it was like, well, I just got away from it because I was cultivating these other things. And you're 18, 19, 20 years old. Like you could easily be forgiven for trying to figure out who you are as an adult during this time, because that's what we were all doing. We were all like trying to figure out who we were. Sure. So like in looking back on it, do you feel like that was a conflicted point, or was it more of just like you were searching for what was going on, and then there was kind of a crystallizing moment that like put you in a position to kind of sit down and think about where you were?
Yeah, I think I didn't put a lot of thought into it when I was younger, like that separation. And I think I just didn't really pay attention. There'd be moments I'd go to church and be like, wow, I'm a long ways away from where I would like to be. And so like that moment of conflict would come in, but then I'd walk out of the church building and everything would be fine again. I'd be still the athlete and the Christian kid that everybody kind of liked. So I don't think there was like a whole lot of internal conflict there up until that point where it's just kind of like flipping and like, oh, wow, I need to change these things.
So do you find it freeing that you've changed that situation? Do you find the fact that like you've taken the things that you felt were disparately in conflict that you didn't maybe realize were in conflict, and you feel like you found a freedom in being like Gage in complete total where you are currently? We have no idea where you will be down the road, but like, do you find that freeing?
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's like, I don't have to be perfect to be a Christian. That's kind of like the beauty of the faith. Is like, we're very imperfect people, and I can kind of be okay with like, I'm going to try my best to do as well as I can. But at the end of the day, I know I'm going to sin, and I know I'm going to make mistakes, and I know, like I'm not going to be the best bike racer out there, and I'm not going to be the best student or, whatever. But at the end of the day, I can go to bed with clean slate and just go, like I'm forgiven for all this stuff, and there's something better for me at the end of the day. It's really nice.
It is nice to think that we can absolve ourselves of our mistakes, right? Regardless of what your faith specifically is, Pebbles. It is good to have the ability gained, however, to think about like, okay, I can look at myself and say it is human to make errors, and that is an okay place to be. No one is perfect, right? We don't all get the opportunity to just nail it every single time. If you did, cool. No one.
But that's also boring. Like, what are you going to learn
right, like,
from
a life that
has, what are you going to learn from a life that you don't have some crashes along the way?
If you don't like accidentally unclip in the middle of this corner and then can't get your foot back in and miss a pedal, like if you don't have those moments, whether on the bike course or in real life, like you don't get the ability to grow or learn or have that challenge. So when you look at translating like your past several years, especially, you know, you were involved in road cycling and then you took on this new endeavor of cyclocross in that way, right? And have gone out and shown that you can compete at the highest level. What has that trajectory over the past couple years taught you, specifically from bikes? What has bikes taught you about the person that Gage is? You are a complete individual with so many other pieces, but when you look at like, okay, that the failures or successes or adjacent things from bikes, you mentioned like meeting diverse people and getting in that space. What else do you think cycling has really taught Gage about Gage?
I mean, it's taught me a lot of things with where I stand on how hard I work towards things and, you know, my work ethic. But I think like the biggest thing is, in a lot of those settings, is people initially will approach me because, you know, I have a decent resume and like people want to be in with that. But it's been cool to be in cycling for so long and see that these people kind of still stick around afterwards. And like, there's actually some value to just being me. It's like, it's kind of cool that people still enjoy that. It's like, I don't have to be the cool, the really good cyclist. Like even on those days where I'm off, I can still come back and high five all my buddies, and like they still think I'm like worth hanging out with. Or
Well, and that to me goes with kind of what,
that's a good one. That warms the heart. That
Yeah,
right? You're like, oh, my dudes are still my dudes.
and that so much goes to kind of what you were saying about kind of absolving yourself from you know, whether it's a result or anything like that, because living with that kind of, you know, full transparency of like, this is who I am. Like I am flawed. I am this. I don't win every bike race. I, you know, might show up at the office at 9:02 instead of 9 o'clock. Like it is just like
Unacceptable, John.
like living that and being that kind of honesty, like having those relationships is really like proof of those things working. Because if you were out trying to like fertilize this false version of yourself that you were, I don't know, pick a personality trait that is the antithesis of who you were, and you were trying to do that because you thought that was, you know, what the industry wanted you to be, that would only last so long before people would start to see through it and you would start to have that internal conflict.
Definitely.
Yeah. So to that point, now, like you've mentioned Brennan, you and Brennan have had a podcast. You guys have made a lot of things together.
Yes.
That really, I think, more represent your guys' relationship with each other, in the same vein that I feel like the Gravelot is very much like Doug and I's, like it's our outward
Inner dialogue
presentation of like our relationship and like our dialogues, and we just get to talk to really cool people like you. But something I've noticed is that you've not, I think you're more of an introverted personality by nature. So again, with this like idea of conflict and feeling like you're not being the person that you need to be, finding interviews like this in a long form format for Gage Hecht are not, they don't really exist. And talking about your history or talking about your faith and your personal belief structure and things like that, they just don't exist. So is that a very broad question? Like is talking about that stuff uncomfortable for you, or do you just not feel like it's previously been relevant for having the conversation, or do you just like flat out not enjoy being in those situations where you're kind of the center of attention?
You know, like it's, I guess if you're asking if I enjoy kind of like taking a step back and absolving myself of that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's this, I've personally seen it, like it really started with Behind the Barriers, where I think a lot of athletes, and it was also like right about the time Instagram was really ramping up, Twitter was really ramping
social media life,
like all of these things where it's seemingly perceptually more important to put yourself out there and share everything about yourself and share your struggles and share your successes and go increase your clout score and do all of these things and do all these interviews and all of like just do all of the things to try and promote your brand. I'm doing rabbit ears for anyone listening. But like those sort of things I don't see you doing those. So it's clearly been kind of an active choice for you. So I'm really kind of digging around of like what your comfort level is with those things in terms of putting yourself out there, and why have you shied away from kind of
because to be clear, they don't need to be done.
No,
Right, yeah, and
I'm not at all saying
No,
that it's like you're letting anybody down.
No.
But like
I think
you've won a
that's the
lot of national championships, but if you Google Gage Hecht, there's not a lot of interviews like this where we've been going for 45 minutes to really figure out who you are as a person.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is just my introverted personality and going and putting myself out there and writing like big long things about myself or posting vlogs. Like you've probably seen a few of the stuff I posted on Instagram of like it's just kind of uncomfortable for me to go out and talk about myself to a big public audience. I don't know what it is about that. I feel maybe it's that it feels selfish a little bit. I think there's definitely a big portion in there is just pure laziness of like, that seems like a lot of work.
Trust me, making a podcast every week, not an easy gain. So like, I feel you on that. I'm down for some laziness every once in a while, but I get that. But like, I hear you when you say that is something that is a challenge.
Yeah.
Do you feel pressured from the things like I'm an extrovert. So like, if I could figure out how to do TikTok, I'd be doing TikToks all the time.
If he could figure out how to do a 24-hour live stream of his life, y'all, Doug would do a 24-hour live stream of his life.
No one would tune in, but it would be cool.
It wouldn't matter.
But I would be happy doing it. But that's just how I'm built. So when your world is structured, like you're a private person in that way. And like, we are so thankful that you're sharing these things with us because I think this is interesting. We all feel pressure regardless. And I don't care if you're doing something like you are, right? Like if you're going out and achieving a thing that other people think is important, or if you're just like paying the bills and taking the kids to school or doing all of those pieces of it, there's this pressure to like put yourself out there in this way. Like, how do you Gage as a person who holds a national championship jersey, who has these other pieces and is involved in this team? How do you feel those pressures in your life and how do you deal with them?
I feel like the pressures for me is like, it feels like there's constantly this obligation of like, wow, these people are giving me a lot of support through bikes, through financial support, through clothing, all that stuff that gets you to bike races. I think like it really benefits them to be on social media posting how great their product is or how awesome that is. And that's the pressure I see there. And it's tough because I want to give them back that, but it also involves, like me trying to make myself look like more than maybe sometimes I feel like I am. Like maybe I have a weird perception on, I guess the quality of rider I am, or like the level I race at. But it to me, I still don't like completely maybe grasp that I'm a pro cyclist on most days. It's just like, oh yeah, like I ride my bike a bunch, but like,
yeah,
that's just like a thing I do for fun. Like people don't really need to know about that, I guess.
Well, but I go back to again what
am I answering your question?
No, you are, and in a way that makes me have like 1,000 more questions, and like I'm over here doing personal analysis.
Yeah,
on, like how I feel. Thank you for making me think these things. This is good.
I like it because we get to dig further. I go back to what you were saying about finding out what your own kind of purpose is and what your lighthouses are, and the things that ground you. In the sense of what you're saying about, I feel awkward making an Instagram story video or something like that, then if it's not going to be genuine, don't do it. Like there's no reason to put yourself in a situation where you're feeling like I'm I'm being disingenuous to who I am, because I'm making something that I'm clearly uncomfortable doing. And there's definitely something to be said for people that are naturally awkward making content, and for the sole purpose of like embracing I am awkward AF and that's my shtick.
Their entire accounts dedicated to that. Yes.
Right. And that's the whole thing, is like, I'm just awkward. That's what I do. But that's not what this is, because you're clearly not, because you can go out and win bike races, whether it's on the road or cyclocross. Like, you need coordination to do those things. It's not naturally awkward. But putting yourself in a situation to like stop midway through a ride, take a picture of your, bike leaning against something and write this great post about how your battery lasted 3 times longer than it really should. Like, it wouldn't be genuine. And I would probably argue that your sponsor doesn't want you doing something that's disingenuous.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you there.
I love that you have found a way to still bring value in these other spaces. And I think that the person that you are and the way that you conduct yourself around the other people you are allows you to continue to be honest with yourself and own the space that you're in without doing the things that don't feel like they're genuine. I think it was what John gets at, is like, this is like, no one wants Gage to be anyone other than who Gage is. And as long as you are in that space, that's who we all care about. And that's who we all support. I think you see that when you watch people root for you, there is this immense like appreciation for you as a person, because you are honestly in that space. Flawed, whatever, every piece of you is there, but you don't have to put it on display, because that's not what anyone would expect from you. And if we saw you start to do that, like, they'd be like, that's weird. Did Doug body snatch Gage? What is going on?
Or somebody cut Gage like an 8-figure paycheck to make it worth it. Because then, like, I'll make as much. If somebody wants to stroke that check, I will make as much Instagram content as you need me to make.
Yeah, exactly. And part of me wants to do it a little bit just to keep people updated, like family, friends, and all those people. But
you do that, but you do it from the place that is you. You don't do it from a place that feels disingenuous. You're doing it as yourself. And I think those pressures in this world, it's hard to feel, it's hard to feel like you can do anything else.
Definitely.
Right? John and I are on ourselves. Like, why are we not making more content? Why are we not doing this thing? Why, like, right? Mm-hmm. That's not the driver of the value of life.
For sure. Yeah.
You're building other pieces and you're doing stuff. You're still going out and having amazing race results and doing all those things, because those are the things that actually bring you value. And I love that you stay true to that stuff in that space. So you got on Alpha, and I know how important that experience was for Brandon, and I know how important it was for Katie and like everybody that is a very seminal period of your life. And first off, is that how you and Brandon met? Like, did you guys meet through Alpha?
We had met briefly beforehand, and it was actually, maybe for him it was like neutral to positive, but for me it was almost kind of negative.
Really?
Not that like I was mad at, like, I guess I wasn't mad at him personally, but I was kind of annoyed with him. But like we did this local race in it was near Golden, and at first Brandon made a point of like coming up and saying hi to me on the start line, and I had never met him or heard of him before. And I was kind of like, who is this guy? And like, oh, it's just gonna be like another guy that's probably going to be behind me just because it was a local race. And maybe I had like a bit of attitude about myself there. But anyways, like throughout, they had these barriers, which at this point I feel it's really ridiculous for not riding, because it was like the quarter slats of a barrier.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And they were like bent over. Like people had hit them so much that they were like bent over. But I refused to try to ride them for some reason. And he would ride them every lap, and he dropped me doing that. And I was kind of like just ticked and frustrated, like, who is this guy that's like coming out of nowhere and winning? So that happened, and then we ended up going worlds together, and building some relationships there when he was on Boo, and then like I feel like we really built the foundation of our friendship at team camp the first year on Alpha up in Steamboat.
It's I don't think we could ever do the relationship that you guys have justice, but I think for anyone that's experienced living in such a small space, I'm thinking like my freshman year in college, living in a dorm, you're basically in like a 15 by 15 cell with 1 to 3 other people. Like you get pretty close.
Whether you wanted to or
right,
not.
whether you want to or not,
the other way.
and by being that close, it really turns the heat up on like one of those 3 people is probably going to be really, really close with you because it's just like you sort through those things. And you and Brandon have a really, really close relationship, and you guys are great friends, and it's such a genuine friendship. And I think both of you have brought each other so many different things. Like for all of the ways we just talked about that you're reserved, Bran is a lot more extroverted and willing to kind of put himself a little bit more out there. And it reminds me,
you call them an extrovert.
It honestly, it reminds me a lot of Doug and I's relationship in the sense that yes, Doug is more extroverted, but there's still situations that he is like very reserved in. And he pulls me in one direction and I kind of hopefully ground him a little bit more in other directions. But in that, when we had Bran on the show the first time, we gave him the opportunity to share some alpha stories. When we had Adam on the first time, we had him on to share some alpha stories. So I guess this is your opportunity to think back on your time there, all of the travels, all the time driving across in the van, cramped in small spaces, going overseas, all of those things, eating all of the burritos, all of the food everywhere. Thinking back, like, can you tell us your favorite memory from that time period with just that group of folks that became so close over that couple year lifespan?
Yeah, man, that's really hard. Like that burrito story was always it's just such a good one just because it was so.
It's relatable. I feel like that's relatable. Anyone that's ever raced a bike and then been put in a position to just eat all of the food, you're like, yeah, that's going to be a burrito-sized lump in my tummy coming soon.
Oh, yeah. And I actually listened to Brandon's podcast earlier today, just kind of get caught up and make like he didn't say anything that I needed to know for this.
Or that you needed to defend. Like,
yeah,
that, like
exactly.
Was there something Brandon said that I need to set the record straight?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just like, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, but we built these relationships over little stuff like that where it kind of took the pressure off of racing for that moment in time of like, we're just kids, whether or not we're on the road, like that's a cool piece of it. And whether or not we're racing, that's a cool piece of it, but we're still high schoolers, and Brennan at that point was a college student. It's like, we're still just going to have fun and do kind of stupid stuff and enjoy those moments.
So now that, y'all have gone effectively, that era of team has all gone its separate ways and you're all doing your separate things. Now, granted, let's be very clear, Pebbles, Gage has to live in the chicken coop out back at the new homestead. No, he actually lives in the house. He's actually allowed to live in the house, but they're like, you're still living with Brandon, Zoe. Like that's a thing. But like, how has the relationships from that period of time with folks like Katie and people who are outside of your immediate contact space, how like those relationships still kindle on in their own ways?
Yeah, they do. And it's interesting bring up Katie because I actually talked to her like less than 48 hours ago.
Yeah, you just saw her, right? You guys were all at the same race.
We were all at the same hotel too. We were
nice.
We got the luxurious Red Roof Inn in Knoxville,
nice.
Tennessee.
Hey folks who are slagging off Legion, guess where they're staying? They're staying at the Red Roof.
Yeah, so us and Raleigh were at the Red Roof living it up. And yeah, so we had a few good conversations, and she and I have a pretty good relationship, but I don't think it was ever as close as she and Brandon were. Just in the way that I think Brandon spent a little bit more time with her being on the team an extra year, and just my lack of ability to talk to females in general I think contributed to that a little bit. I'm a little embarrassed, but I'm not too afraid to admit that. But yeah, so we still have a pretty good relationship, and we keep in contact pretty often. In fact, we have a group chat that we all keep on Snapchat, and at least once or twice a week we get a snap from probably each one of us, kind of
That's
updating
great.
what we're doing and making fun of each other for one thing or another.
That's good. I mean, those friendships that are forged in that period of time, like in that high school time, like I'm still in touch with my buddies from high school, and I'm so thankful for that, because even though we've like gone our separate ways and missed each other at different times of our life, we're still in contact. And the moments we like get to share making fun of each other for crap we did in high school is just so good. You're like, yeah, remember that? And they're like, yes, I unfortunately do remember that moment in time when my judgment was slightly impaired by whatever thing I was doing. So at that point, so you've been doing all this stuff. You've just come back from nationals, where you did see your good friend Katie. You had a great showing on the road there. Avolo did a brilliant job in both the crit and the road race. Y'all had people up the road. You all had a great showing. Just awesome weekend for the team all the way around. We're kind of sitting here in the middle of the summer, in the middle of, well, the beginning of the summer, technically, but in the middle of the road season. Things are happening. What's next? Like, what's going on over the next several months, and what are you like getting ready for and looking for as we roll through the rest of the road season, and really with our eyes towards the fall in cyclocross? Because
Yeah,
like we got a lot of cross listeners, like they may not know how prodigious your road career is. They want to know about your road career because they now like crossover athletes, like, and like Matthew, they're like, okay, cool, MVDP can like cross the road, and so like this could be Gage. What's Gage up to on both of these fronts?
yeah. So with the Volo, it's been a tricky season, even though COVID, it's not really over, but like the restrictions have kind of lifted more or less, and things are kind of resuming because there was so much of a delay in so many things. A lot of the races were pushed back into August and September, which left us kind of scrambling for races to find race days. So we're going out to Baker City to. It's not like a tiny local race, like it's not some podunk little race, but it's definitely no UCI stage race, and we're doing a stage race out there. And then we'll come back for a couple of weeks, and then we got Tusher, which is first big gravel race, and maybe possibly the only gravel race I'm doing this year. But that's always one I look forward to, just because it's pretty magnificent. And then after that, it's going to be. I'm talking to people about how this cross season is going to go with intermingling those, because there's so many of those road races that now got put into that.
The back half of this. Back half of this year is wild.
Oh yeah, so it looks like it's going to work out fairly well for how many races are going on in that period of time. But there definitely is going to be a lot of sacrifice made, and maybe being a little tired for one race weekend or something here and there. So
I think that kind of blends into kind of the broader question. Like, you have, like, obviously not everyone is Mathieu van der Poel. Like, the things that he's accomplishing on whatever thing that has two wheels that he gets on is mind-blowing, that he's able to go compete at the sharp end of any race. It's not everybody's approach, but like, thinking about this long term, you've got an on-road career that you're developing with a lot of great people around you, and you already have an established cyclocross career that you're building. Winning a national championship doesn't mean that you're like building a career. It means that you've already ascended to having a career. But you have these like two seemingly divergent paths where, yeah, you can do one, do both, but normally people end up focusing more of their time on, I want to get really good at this, but I want to do this for fun or stay fit or whatever the case may be. So, like, long term, where's your head at in terms of how all of this stuff shakes out?
Like ever since I was probably like even younger than 15, when I first got that first deal with the team. I always kind of had it in my head of like, if I ever have to pick, I'm going to pick cyclocross. And I'd still would love to say that, but I think like life has kind of coming in, and I actually have to pay for stuff eventually. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Brendan and Zoe are really nice to host me for as cheap as they do, and my parents are they've as we've talked in the past with them, is they're like my biggest sponsor, really.
Sure.
Like,
And Great Wolf Lodge here to help, but there's not a Great Wolf Lodge everywhere.
Exactly. So, like, though I still have a ton of people pitching in, but at some point I'd like to, like, relieve that pressure off of them a little bit. So, going into the road is a little bit more appetizing for that. I think in an ideal world, if I could do whatever I wanted, I'd be, Tom Pidcock or Matthew Vanderpool or one of these names that, like during the summer, they're like World Cup mountain bike race, Tour de France, another World Cup, like Olympics, all this stuff. And then going into a cross season and just, kind of walking all over everybody. I think that would be like my dream, but obviously there's some physical limitations on myself of like, I am not Matthew Vanderpool.
No one on this call is, and that's okay.
Yeah,
but you are, but you are Gage Hecht, right? Like you are you.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Like,
who knows?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's hard to ignore the economics of it, that there's historically been more money in racing on the road. But that's where things like the U.S. National Series for cyclocross and having GCN coverage and things like that, getting actual TV coverage at these major events it's a gateway towards having a product that's viable towards sponsors that are outside of the bike industry, and stuff like that. You just don't know. And I mean, it's great that like I've gotten to watch more bike racing this year because I have a Flow Sports account, and just thinking about all of those things that those are giving avenues towards finding new, financial influxes into this sport. So I think it's cool to hear where your heart is at. But also it's very, again, probably wiser than your actual trips around the sun to say, I'm going to go whatever's going to pay the bills. Cause I think that's a lot of people. It kind of ends up being their default position where they feel like they're backed into a corner and they have to do it. I'm gonna be like I'm actively leaning into this in terms of like this is where the waves are going, and I'm gonna ride this wave as far as it'll take me, with arms wide open. There's my early 2000s rock.
You just dropped Creed in
I did. I feel like that is very on like a Volo brand. I feel like that's pretty solid. I feel pretty happy about that Onion reference right there.
Perfect. Bro.
There you go. I think that's good.
I think I took some smoke off of it by actually calling it out, but whatever.
Okay. It's okay.
There's probably not many people following me, but if one of you sends a message and says I followed and I chuckled or I smiled, then job well done.
That's all you need. So, well, dude, this has been awesome. I have two more things. One thing, which is the question is coming. And then another thing before we let you off the horn here after we pay the bills. So the question that's coming is that, like, we've covered your kind of progression through this, and not just your progression as a person riding bikes, but progression as a person. 23, we've got decades on each other here, but I'm always learning things from new people and people who are teaching me things no matter their age. So for our pebbles out there, what would you want to give them as something to like take home and think about from all the stuff we've kind of conversated about tonight, or things we didn't even get to touch?
I think there's a main topic we touched on, but maybe like spend some time being introspective about yourself and finding where you find identity in things, and maybe thinking hard about that. And, like maybe you're proud of that identity, or maybe you want to change that, and just, going forward and in your life and knowing that, that identity is a bit malleable. And it's not something you have to just keep like leaning on. Like you can change that, and you can change that to yourself, maybe not even to other people. Like you can choose what you rely on to put your trust in, I guess.
Man, I hope
Jesus,
that
that's so wise.
here we are, like
I hope.
mid June, after the largest, global health crisis in 100 years, and like I would hope that if people heard that, they'd be like, yeah, I've been doing that because I've been stuck at home, not able to do probably the majority of the things that most people define as hobbies or like extracurricular activities. But it never
But were
hurts
they?
to be, yeah, right. It
Were
like, but
they?
were they? But like it never, I was trying to like walk slowly into that, but like it never hurts to be reminded of like, are you really doing all of the things in all the ways that you want to be doing them?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Hopefully, I'm not being too trying to be deeper than I'm really meaning to be.
No, but I think this is an aspect, Gage, of the person that you are, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is important that you get to share this piece of yourself with folks, because this is actually who you are. You think about these things on the regular, every single day. Like, I cannot imagine what the kitchen table conversations are in your residence with Zoe and Brandon, because like it's got to like vacillate wildly between super fucking serious, pardon my French, and absolutely absurd, right? Like, because all of you are people who look inward to think about themselves and their place in the space and the place in the world and the way that they affect other people. And I think that's something that bonds you two together, you three together, really. And I think that's an aspect of you that is so good to see, because while you're not doing press junkets like you're The Rock, like when you do have these opportunities to talk to folks, it's nice to like see the person that we know when we interact with you in real life across a camera or on audio, because that is who you are. And it is so good that you bring that to these spaces. So it's awesome. And we appreciate your depth, because I think a lot of people are afraid to approach their own depth. So thank you for being open and sharing that stuff.
Yeah, of course. And thank you. Thanks for, like conversating over this. I think that's really good.
So are you down to hold on for a few moments?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm excited for this, like this second.
I've got a surprise for John.
It's a surprise for me. I know what's coming, but I also don't know what's coming. So I think
fantastic.
That's great.
And I'm very excited for it. So first, thanks to Gage for being here. And also a massive thanks to all of you, the Pebbles, for tuning in tonight. Old, new, whether you're listening to this like on Thursday or you've been with us for the live stream, thanks for being here. We can't do this without your support. So make sure to subscribe, click the links in the show notes, and support our sponsors. Click the like button, visit thegravelot.com, check out all the shows that our friends produce. We love them to death. Girls Moving Mountains. Kate Courtney on the show this week. Kate Courtney on the show. Olympian.
Yeah, like
on the show.
It's so gratifying to see that a show that we've had a small hand in making has like surpassed us.
All like whatever. Just
like that's all you can have.
Gage, I love you. Gage, I love you. None of us have Olympic rings. None of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We might go to the Olympics as spectators currently. You can still get there. John and I are going as spectators.
Yeah.
But make sure to go check out the other shows, Bike Shop Show. All the folks who are producing content are awesome friends. We're so thankful for them to let us host their stuff on our kind of little webpage. To make sure you get your stuff over there. Thanks for being patrons. Go to our Patreon, become supporters today. And we're still looking for guests for the second half of the year. We've been lining people up. We have some amazing interviews with some amazing people. I am super stoked to share with you names you know, names you don't know, and names you should know. So send us your suggestions and we will get on top of that.
Yeah. So as Doug said, without you guys being Patreon supporters, downloading this, sharing it with your friends, like this just doesn't occur. But in addition to you guys know by now we've had some amazing sponsors for almost as long as we've been making this show. So we definitely encourage you guys, if you haven't, or if you haven't in a while, it might be time to get something new, whether it's new coffee, new gloves, whatever. It's a great time. It's the beginning of summer. Like treat yourself treat yourself. Get that box that shows up on the front porch. I got one today. I got new running shoes, and it was so nice to come home from the office and have a little present on the porch. It was so nice. So
yeah, I got a new shirt for the wedding. So
yeah, so go support these people that have partnered with us in the show. We've got some discount codes for a couple of them, but they are just great folks that have really bought into what we're trying to do, sharing stories, doing something different in the bike landscape that's actually talking about who people are and how they came to this whole thing that we all love. So show them some love, support them, buy their products. And really, if you get a chance, thank them for supporting TGL.
So massive thanks to our friend Adam at BFRB Cycling. New hot kit drop. If you're listening to this right now, get on over now to the Instagram, DM them if you want in on the camo bibs and the 3 different like special colors that they've dropped of jerseys. All new stuff in the store. So much good news. BFRBcycling.com. Be Free Ride Bikes has been supporting us for years. We love their kit. It's fantastic. They will do full custom cycling kit for you if you're looking for stuff for your cyclocross season. Everybody's pretty much out on the road. You need to pick up some supplies, hit their website up, and then work on your team kit for the fall over at BFRBcycling.com.
And if you are like me and have become spoiled about what your coffee choices are over the pandemic, we more than encourage you to go visit Dan and all of the folks over at Grimpour Brothers Coffee, grimpourbrothers.com. Go to their website, check out all their different blends, but when you're doing that, read through the descriptions and you can see where a portion of each of those bags of coffee, a portion of the proceeds is going to go to a specific cause. Tons of great causes. There are different items coming out. It seems almost weekly. I don't know how Dan is keeping up with all these things.
I have no idea.
But small batch roasted coffee, hand selected beans, they get packed by Dan lovingly. He writes notes on every single one of the packages. So it is the quintessential small batch. Everything about it is just done to the T, but also when you grind it and you make your coffee, it's so good. It's so good, y'all. Like you guys, it changes your opinion of what nice coffee is. So, grimpourbrothers.com. Go check out their coffee. If you subscribe to the subscription service, you will get a free bag of coffee. I don't know what more I need to tell you to go buy some coffee.
You can just say buy coffee.
Go buy coffee from grimpourbrothers.com. That's it.
Also, a massive thanks to the Ritual All Natural Skincare, which John started years ago because of an unfortunate situation. We've talked about it on the podcast. We'll share it with you personally.
Real gross.
No,
real gross.
Not appropriate, and we will not discuss it any further. But the Ritual All Natural Skincare, providing handmade, small batch skincare right here in Ohio. If you want custom blends, you want custom menthol, you want super Euro, you want it to smell like bananas or popcorn or whatever, they can. I'm just assuming.
I feel like we're walking into like a Jelly Belly co-branding opportunity right now.
Fantastic jelly. It's not as lumpy as Jelly Bellies, but it's chamois cream, and you can get it for your nether regions, but make it smell like whatever you wish. Contact John and I here right on the Gravel Lot. We will get you hooked up with folks at the Ritual to get yourself in whatever sort of skincare is appropriate for you, your team, your shop, whomever you wish to brand it for. Wedding gifts. I'm working on things for gift bags. Maybe everyone's getting chamois cream custom branded. Just thought of this idea. It's totally ridiculous.
They should get it for you for your wedding. That's a great gift.
It will not happen. It will not happen.
We are also supported by Mitch and Bywheels Fit Studio and Workshop, located actually right up the road from us here in Cincinnati. Mitch offers a full host of bike fitting services. The whole goal of it is aimed at making sure that you are the most comfortable, the most powerful, and the most happy that you've ever been on your bike. So that's going to make you ride more. He has Guru and Retool Fit certifications, has all the technology, motion capture, does a movement test before you actually do your fit. Doug and I have actually both gone through this and made a lot of changes to both of our fits to make sure that Doug's awkwardly shaped and I'm just never comfortable because I have a giant head and it always makes my neck hurt.
Why am I all suddenly awkwardly shaped?
Okay, so you're 6 inches shorter than me, 6 inches shorter than me, but your wingspan is the same as mine.
I have 6 foot even.
So you're 4 inches shorter,
Yeah.
and you have the same wingspan as me. That's awkwardly shaped for a bike.
I don't know. I've just always been this way.
Yeah. So regardless, Mitch got you sorted out. And the other thing that if you go to biowheels.com, you can look at not only what the scheduling is for getting a fit, because he's got people coming from, Pittsburgh, from Michigan, from Wisconsin, like people coming in from miles away to get their fit with Mitch. He is that good. But the other cool thing about it is he is one of the few bike shops that actually has bikes for sale. They're all listed on biowheels.com. You can see what's in stock, what's coming. Not only that, but what group set's on it, what size the bike is going to be, and when the expected arrival date is going to be. So in terms of providing full disclosure on what's actually available and what's coming in, like it is outside of just being one of the places that actually has bikes, having that transparency in terms of actually what's coming in is amazing. So be sure to go visit Mitch, BioWheels, Fit Studio and Workshop.
Also, a massive thanks to our friends Hand Up, dropping new gloves, it seems like every 5 minutes. New collaboration, one with Phil Guyman that came out today, and another one doing gloves for good, supporting good causes. They've got
I gotta slow down.
those out now.
We can't keep up.
Ellen Noble was like last week. There are gloves. Hand Up's dropping gloves with everybody. Gage probably has gloves with them we don't even know about. We have gloves that we haven't even dreamed up. Maybe someday.
Sure.
Down the road. Yeah, sure. Just imagine.
Tell us what the catchphrase is.
Yeah,
that's what they are.
It can't be too many letters. Got to be real small and fit in the hands, and not say anything inappropriate on only one hand unless it's funny. So go visit handupgloves.com. Click the link in our show notes. It's the best way to get there. And then enter code Pebble $sign at checkout to save yourself 10% off everything in store. I was at an event this week, and everyone's like, "Ooh, I like your jorts." And I was like, "Why, thank you. Hand Up Gloves." Go to the link in my show notes. Click the link in my show notes. Pebble $sign at checkout. And these are all people that I know really, really well. And they're like, "Can you please stop shilling your podcast?" I was like, "Do you want these awesome jorts?" Click the link in the show notes.
It's not even a question. It's you want these awesome jorts.
Right.
Also, ding, it's an official show.
It is always.
So you guys know, or if you don't, if this is your first time, we love hearing from you guys. We love your feedback, positive, negative, irreverent, whatever it is. So reach out to us. Let's talk. Send us a contact form on the website. Hit us up on any of the forms of social media, whether it's the Gravelot account or Doug or I personally. That's the whole point of doing this. We love talking to people. We love talking to Gage. We love talking to Larissa last week, and we want to hear from you and hear what you have to say. So hit us up, find us all those places. Go to thegravelot.com. We're going to continue to be here every Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. New York time. I don't want to say Cincinnati time because very few people even know where Cincinnati is. New York time, 6:30 Eastern time, on YouTube, Facebook, and you can find us. You just Google it. It's like
we're
like the first 3 pages of Google at this point. So
why don't you Google it?
Yeah,
right?
Just Google the Gravelot, and one of those is going to be us more than likely, unless you're at a landscaping company. But hopefully you can tell the difference.
If you can't, then that's fine too.
Right.
Our intro and outro music is from Waterboy. Check out the link in his show notes in our show notes so you can check out all his good music. Awesome stuff. Super chill jams. We enjoy his stuff. So thank you to him for all that. So Gage, before we get out tonight, I have a special request. And I don't know if you're willing to do it, but it has been asked for by the internet. And is being asked for by me. Will you please, before I roll us out, send us out on the Avolo pump up clip? Like, I need to hear the pump up jam before I'm ready to deliver this show.
Like you want the whole Ric Flair thing?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Can you do it?
I gotta get you guys to help me out a little bit. You gotta say yeah after.
Oh yeah.
Every time I can do
the yes. I can do the yes. And John will be right here.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Just got to say that I'm a Rolex flexing.
Yeah.
Diamond ring wearing.
Yeah.
Limousine riding.
Yeah.
Private plane flying.
Yeah.
Wheeling dealing.
Yeah.
Kiss stealing.
Yeah.
Son of a gun.
Yeah.
and I'm having a hard time keeping these alligators down.
Yeah.
Now, everybody, I need you to give me 2 claps and a Ric Flair.
Woo! John, that's for you. I burned my mic out.
That feels like that should be. We might have to go old school and cut that for the intro for this
I think we're going
week.
to put that on the intro for the podcast.
Yeah, I like that.
Good.
Yeah.
So, Gage, thank you for being here and Ric Flairing the entire Pebbles. Scott Herman, that was specifically a request. So you're very welcome. Thank you for being here, dude. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys. It's an honor to be on here.
We're delighted to have had you. Pebbles, that's all for this week. So make sure you subscribe, follow, and engage. Because as you know, decisions and trails are made by those who show up. So if we don't see you this week, we'll see you next time. Bye, John.
Bye, Doug.